how. Dr. Bob Martin here. If you want to feel, function, and perform the very best you can, please tune in and call into my show Sunday mornings at 10 on Talk 1470 WNN.
It takes a whole lot more effort to get something started in your life than it does to keep it moving.
Del Walmsley has moved thousands of radio listeners closer to a great life. The Del Walmsley Show is now on in South Florida on Talk 1470, Monday at 5, Tuesday through Friday at noon. Listen and move towards your great life today.
If you're not happy with your investments, if you've ever tried the stock market and haven't done well, hop in the car and get to Online Trading Academy. Online Trading Academy's pro investors show you how they find the right investments. Learn current Wall Street skills about stocks, options, futures, forex, even Bitcoin. See how market timing works and how money is made in up, down, and sideways markets by using their patented rules-based strategy. It helps find the right investment and limit the risk. The instructors at Online Trading Academy are certified, currently trade, and are profitable. They show you how they invest every day. Call now for a pair of tickets to a free half-day class at Online Trading Academy. Classes are all over Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, Jupiter, and Port St. Lucie. Call Online Trading Academy now. Call 954-668-2510. 954-668-2510. 954-668-2510.
Talk here, talk there. Talk 1470 AM and 95.3 FM, the Health and Wealth Radio Network. WNN.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teal. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teal, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Caregiver Solutions Info Show. I'm so happy you could join us today. We have another awesome show and lots of great information to share with you. If you're watching us in Florida, Southeast Florida, you can catch us on AM or FM, 1470, AM 95.3 FM. You can watch us on the iHeartRadio app, or on your smartphone or computer, you can actually watch us anywhere you are at www.caregiversolutions.info. So thank you again for being here. So if you're a caregiver, this show is really for you. It was developed for non-paid family caregivers who find themselves in a situation that you probably never thought you'd ever have to do, being a caregiver to a loved one that can't take care of themselves anymore, especially someone that has developed a disability like Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia. Mm-hmm. We find that caregivers sometimes are so overwhelmed, they get paralyzed and they don't even know where to look. And of course, there are a lot of resources out there, but in my opinion, there's never enough. And so this program was developed to share with caregivers who can't get out to find information, like going to support groups or maybe seminars in another town. It's hard for you to leave a loved one. It's hard for you to get out. And so you can find the information right in your own home, in the privacy of your home, on this program. So I'm glad that you're here. Today, I have two awesome ladies, and they're going to share a lot of information. But let me tell you a little bit about them before we get started. They both work at the Aging and Disability Resource Center of Broward County. Now, here the show is live, and we are live today from Palm Beach County, but we're in southern Palm Beach County in Boca Raton, and right across the border is Broward County. So we serve Broward and Palm Beach in this location. However, the information that we provide to everyone is pretty much applicable, because if you take the information, you can usually find a person or an organization somewhere near you where you could also get the same information that would be specific to your location. So I'm happy to have these two ladies here. They have been with the organization for many, many years. They have a lot of experience with the organization, and they also have a lot of experience, as you will hear, with caregiving. So let me introduce them to you now. So I have with me here, left to right or right to left, depending upon how you're viewing this, Gail Janata.
Yes.
Okay, there's Gail over there. And Gail is an LPN.
Yes.
And she has worked for the Aging and Disability Resource Center for about 26 years.
26
Long
years.
time. So we're going to hear all about you. And also her co-worker here is DJ Canepa, and she is a screening specialist with the Aging and Disability Resource Center of Broward County, and we're going to find out what that means also. So welcome, ladies.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
I'm so
Thank
happy
you.
that you all are here. Excited to talk to you today. There's a lot of information to share. So let's get started and talk a little bit about what your specific roles are, okay? So I know there's a lot of services that you all do, and from your website, just to give an overview, I know that you're a nonprofit organization,
Yes.
and you serve and have services in Broward County for seniors age 60 and older, persons with severe and persistent mental and physical illnesses, ages 18 and over, their families, and caregivers. So that's a large group of people if you consider all that it entails. What you do, you plan, develop, coordinate, evaluate programs, fund services, and you're advocates for residents of Broward County, 60 years and older. So, you know, just that small description sounds very daunting. So let's break it down, and we'll start with you, DJ. You're a screening specialist. What does that mean, and what are some of your duties that you do to help people and caregivers and elderly people 60 and over?
Well, let me start, because screening specialist actually does the applications to apply for the funded services that caregivers and the elderly and the mentally disabled need at home. And caregivers is a special passion of mine as a screening specialist, because I took care of my mom for 10 years alone.
Wow.
Without any help, no sisters, no brothers, for a severely handicapped person with dementia. Started from scratch, came here to Florida, and you learn a little by little. I have 3 things that all caregivers need to know. First of all caregivers need to go to a caregiver support group. That is where you will find might be the most minute information that you need, but it's that one thing you need to get you to the next step, because caregiving is about change. And the system is all changing, and you don't know what you're doing, and you find a lot of people that know a little bit more than you. The second thing that caregivers need to do is find help for themselves, relief, respite, daycare. Okay, and the third thing people need to do is to call a resource in your community, in your county, that has the resources for you. You call your doctor, they don't know who we are, they don't have the resources. I heard about it from someone in the hospital. So you can hear about resources many different places. And then what you want to do, now that you know what you need help with, you call the helpline. Every county in the United States has a helpline, and through every area agency on aging, sometimes they're called Aging and Disability Resource Centers. Dade County calls it Alliance for Aging. Almost every county in the United States has a helpline to help caregivers and their families. I was just amazed with that. Now, what I do as a screening specialist, all referrals, all the calls go through the helpline, and they give them the information, the resources, the food, the legal advice. They refer them to what they need presently. And then when they find out at the helpline that the caregiver needs help at home, their parent needs help at home, they send a screening specialist the referral of what they need at home or daycare or respite, all the things that the caregivers need. And we proceed with the application. We call the caregiver or the consumer. They can call, anyone in the family can call, and we do the applications for that assistance. That's everything from stipends for caregivers, it's a little stipend, a check for full-time caregivers, to help with personal care and homemaking, and daycare. That daycare is a big one. That's your respite for caregivers, as well as respite for home. There are several different programs, from the Alzheimer's Disease Initiative Grant Program. Our county has the Community Care for the Elderly program that offers help with personal care and homemaking and respite at home. And also there is the big program, the state's program, long-term care, that has no copay. And all those programs we can apply for with one tool, the application, and we simply try to apply for everything that the caregiver or the client needs at home, all in one tool, all in 1 hour.
Wow.
To get everybody on a wait list.
Okay.
Keep in mind.
I was going to say, with
Right.
all those services, it must be very
Lots
much
of-
in demand.
Yes, we have, we get hundreds all the time, but we have a good team. Everyone goes on a wait list because the agency doesn't have the funding, and the county does, and the state does. They release the money as needed.
Periodically.
And then we are the hub of the application. We help with all parts of the application until that person gets the services.
Gotcha. So thank you for explaining that, because your funding comes from a lot of various sources. And
That's
according
correct.
to what I read, programs are funded through the Florida Department of Elder Affairs and the Area-Wide Council on Aging of Broward, the Florida Community Care for the Elderly that you mentioned, and Home Care of the Elderly Act, the Alzheimer's Disease Initiative legislation,
Right.
Medicaid. There's also emergency home energy assistance for the elderly,
Right.
and also matching funds are contributed by Broward County government and local municipalities, and probably even private donations.
Let me just add one thing, because when the caregiver or the consumer calls the helpline, our helpline is the front door through which everybody walks or makes a phone call. We get a consumer that may call who might be 80 years old and call in and say, I need you to take me to my doctor, all right? I'm just going to press a little bit, because this has to do with caregivers, because they need a lot of help too. It could be their mother calling. It doesn't matter who calls in, but the helpline starts out the referral by finding out, oh, really? You need transportation? Well, how the heck are you getting your meals? That leads to the Meals on Wheels, which is our provider. And then all of a sudden we find out, no, she's hurt her leg, but she can't go because her insurance denied it. So we find out also that she needs help with her Medicare. Well, by golly, a helpline, we have the SHINE program, serving health insurance needs of elders. So we can refer all these people to our providers that assist the consumer or the caregiver. Medicare, Medicaid, legal assistance, home touch, home repair, Meals on Wheels, the Emergency Home Energy Assistance Program for help with the electric bill twice a year. It goes on, and now we get referrals from BSO. When they find seniors or caregivers in trouble, they'll call us. So we get lots of different sources for our referrals, and they all filter down. And when they need that help at home or in daycare, they send it to us in the screening department, and we proceed and start to call them and do the applications.
That's amazing. One phone call from one person asking for a ride to the doctor has led realistically to at least 5 or 6 other things that person might need that you could help with.
And that's the important thing of these area agencies on aging, how they were started. It's a one-stop shop for anything the consumer or the caregiver needs at home. So even though we are talking about caregivers, they are a passion of mine. They are the people at the heart of a home. There's usually one that is chosen to take care of a family member, especially people with dementia and Alzheimer's. Very, very difficult. And that's why we have to help caregivers get the help they need, the daycare, the respite, help with personal. I take care of my mom. I bathe her and everything. But you're dead, right? There's nothing else you can do. Why don't you get out? Why don't we get somebody in there to help you with the personal care, the homemaking? Get them into daycare for the day so you can go out, get a movie, get your nails done, your hair done. That restores caregivers. And it's, again, caregivers are the heroes.
They are. And as heroes, sometimes we find that they sacrifice so much, and because they're caregivers and they're giving everything they have to their loved one, it's hard for them to accept help sometimes, or at least hard for them to ask for help. And that's what we find. They're just afraid. They don't want to impose. They just don't want to ask. But here you are offering all of these things. And I think it's a little easier when someone offers something specific, like what you can offer them, for them to take advantage of that, rather than them even knowing what they need. Because half the time, I think a lot of caregivers don't even know what they need.
Right. And that's why they call the helpline first, because we have a wealth of resources in the helpline to offer them. But by picking up listening is an extremely important skill there. And then we can filter down, they can refer it. We have that SHINE program at the ADRC to help them with their Medicare. One of our providers is the Meals on Wheels of South Florida. We can send a referral for that. Besides the state program for our mentally disabled or people under 60, now that's a hard program for people because they can't get the county funding if they're under 60. So we have another avenue that's opened up to us through DCF. It's a community care for the disabled adult. And they also have a stipend for caregivers, full-time caregivers. A stipend is a check. It could be about $100 a month. But for caregivers that can't go out, that are full-time, it is a blessing. And DCF also has another program. So you can see, if I screen a caregiver for a consumer who has Alzheimer's, I can be applying for the Alzheimer's Disease Initiative program for daycare or in-home respite. I can be applying at the same time for the county program, community care for the elderly, to help them with personal care or homemaking, or also additional respite if that's, they need that, and also the emergency alert response system.
You are a blessing to somebody to be able to take all of that into account, handle it for them. They're always so overwhelmed, and know what to do. I mean, that is amazing, and I think it's awesome. And I'm so excited to have you all here to share. So we're going to take our first quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to hear more from both of these amazing ladies and the amazing organization that they represent. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, And we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
Hi, I'm Michael Mole.
Expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
We're back, Caregiver Solutions Info Show, and my guests today are from the Aging and Disability Resource Center of Broward County. They are sharing services for caregivers and elderly seniors in their homes and help with all kinds of things that DJ has been sharing with us. It's amazing what's out there. People sometimes don't know what to do, where to look, how to get this, and it sounds like you're a one-stop shop, DJ. You're explaining everything, and I love what you said during the commercial break, that you call yourself the caregiver of caregivers. Mm-hmm. And why do you do that? Why do you say that?
After signing my divorce papers in Maryland, I came down here because my mother called me that she needed help. Packed my bags, came down here to Florida, and proceeded to start with step one. She became, over the 10 years, severely handicapped and with dementia. So I became her body. She could not do anything, didn't talk very much, but you learn step by step what to do. I didn't have the resources. I didn't know where to go. Someone at the hospital where I was volunteering after she died suggested the daycare center. Oh my God, did that change my life and my mom's? People don't realize if someone has been social and they're now stuck in a cocoon, she would literally wake me up and tell me that it's time to go to school. She loved going to the daycare so much.
Oh, she called it school.
Yeah. Yeah, she was ready to go to school. I mean, little things like that. And then for me to have that rest, time to get out, time to find resources, change the system, put bricks under the, all the furniture, the little things that happen along the way.
So you learned to be a caregiver as you went, and now you're helping other caregivers to really access things a lot quicker and sooner than maybe what you had the opportunity.
And what I learned about those tidbits in a daycare center, for example, my mom did not talk at all. The daycare helped her. She was a private person. Didn't I stay away? I'm going to take my own shower, but she couldn't. I came up with, hey, Mom, you're going to shower me. I got in the shower naked, and she scrubbed my back. And from then on, it's like, okay, you can do me now. And it's those little tiny things you share at the support groups. The caregiver support groups are when you are with people that have overcome these just tiny little things that open up your loved one like a flower. And my mother went from not talking to be all curled up to going to a daycare center 3 times a week, as I recall. And she would literally get up on her walker and bring people up on the dance floor, and she'd be dancing around. I became a clown with my girlfriend. I became the clown for North Broward, and I went to visit her and friends, and it just explodes like a flower. When you meet people in the same position you're at, you go to meet them, and it raises your spirit. I would do it again in a heartbeat. There is nothing like taking care of another human being.
Oh, that is so special. I know that it warms your heart to know that you're helping other people in the same situation or similar situations that you found yourself in as a caregiver. So you are the caregiver of caregivers. I love that.
Exactly. So when they start calling me and they cry on the phone or they can get angry, I get it. I can know exactly what to do. I know where they are. I can offer that tidbit, and we go right on. And it's wonderful. Thank you for allowing me to participate today.
Thank you. I mean, this is stuff that people really can identify with, or someone's probably listening saying, gee, that maybe that could help me. And that's why we do the show, so we can get that information out there. There's another part of the Aging and Disability Resource Center services that I want to bring to light too, and that leads me over here to my new friend Gail. And Gail is a LPN, and she is actually the director of the Senior Intervention Program at ADRC, which again is Aging and Disability Resource Center of Broward County. And I'm curious, Gail, I know that you've worked with the organization for a long time, 26 years. That's a long time. So when did this Senior Intervention Program start, and why did it start?
Well, I was a nurse working. I had small children at the time, and I was working hours to make some money in nursing homes and assisted living facilities and doing private care. And what I was experiencing in those, facilities was a lot of disappointment in seeing people that really weren't getting the care that they needed. And it really was devastating for me when I would leave there at the end of the night and I had 60 patients and, had to stay after hours and get home late and feel that my work wasn't done and see that a lot of their care wasn't getting done and they weren't getting what they needed. And with that being said, I started to feel like I needed to do something more. And I wanted to do something out on my own to help people stay out of nursing homes and assisted living facilities and give them an opportunity at home to get help. But I wasn't quite sure how to do that. And lo and behold, by the end of the week, there was an ad in the paper for someone to prevent abuse, neglect, and exploitation of the elderly. And it wasn't under medical, it was under professional, but I applied anyway. And they were curious as to why I applied, because they weren't looking for a nurse, they were looking for a social worker. And they called me in. And I was interviewed, and I was interviewed twice. I was interviewed once by a supervisor and the next time by Edith Letterberg. And they were amazed at how they never thought of interviewing a nurse and how much they needed a nurse's input. They said they were looking for 6 months for somebody and they just couldn't find the right person, and that they had 6 months worth of funding, and that if I could develop a program for caregivers who were overwhelmed and feeling burnt out by the caregiving tasks, unable to know how to handle certain medical problems and teach them and assist them and train them, then maybe there could be more funding for me.
And that was 26 years ago,
Yes.
and you're going strong.
Yeah, what a blessing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And, obviously you were the right person for the job. So
meant to be.
So tell me about the program today. How do you help caregivers today?
Yeah, the program has evolved, and it's at that point in time it was called the In-Home Training Program, because I was going into the homes upon referral. And again, nobody knew I was available or out there back in the day. And so I had to go out and do a lot of outreach. So I outreached to all of the condominiums. I outreached to churches. I outreached to BSO, fire department, EMT. I outreached to all the senior centers and hospitals. And, today I have a large referral source out there, because most people do know me in most neighborhoods. With my program, I was targeting the low income. Not to say that people that have the funds always know what to do with them or how to manage or how to take care of somebody. It helps to have money, obviously. But I consider myself an advocate, and I did go back to school and become a geriatric care manager. I wanted to credential myself because I felt that I needed that social service background. And so with that, I have been actively evolving the program through the years, and I've done in-services to hospitals. I go out to the care managers in all the hospitals because I work with every hospital in Broward County. When they're going to discharge a patient, we like to assume as patients that we're going to get help when we get home, and people don't realize with managed care today, people fall through the cracks continually, and they end up back in the hospital. They're let out of the hospitals way too soon, and the caregivers may not know how to handle what's going on medically with that person. And if it's two frail elderly people, it's very difficult stress-wise for the person who may be dependent on her husband to do certain things that he can't no longer do, or for a husband to depend on his wife when she would cook. These are very traditional roles because we're dealing with a population of people who are in their 80s,
right,
90s, and even 100 today. Life has gotten so much longer, and yet the quality of life may not be there. And here in South Florida, a lot of these seniors do not have family and extended family members to come in and assist and help with the groceries or the ride to the doctor, or be there to advocate or help with the applications. The programs are there, but getting those papers to the doctor's office to get that signature, okay? Getting those applications and the necessary paperwork that needs to go with them is key to getting help.
Because sometimes just doing that paperwork is too stressful or overwhelming for a caregiver to do, right? So they need the help, and they need someone to be there for them, and that would be you.
Yeah, there's always more than one thing going on. If it's the client, there's more than one illness going on. They may have memory impairment, but they might also have visual impairment or hearing impairment or arthritis or spinal stenosis or neuropathy with diabetes. There's so many things going on. And then you've got a caregiver who is also, if it's not an adult child, it's a spouse or a close relative possibly. And, they may have their own problems as well. And there's always financial issues as well. So you've got a lot of stressors going on, and it takes a lot of resources to bring some services into that home.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because my next question was, you all are a nonprofit,
yeah,
right? Mm-hmm. So I know you have a lot of organizations that are funding for you. Does it ever cost any of the caregivers anything to receive some of these services, or do they get discounted costs? How does that work?
My mother is receiving care from Community Care for the Elderly. She had a fall and fractured her shoulder and her knee, and I took her to my house and took care of her. And then when she appeared to be doing well, she's an extremely independent woman, and she wanted to go home. And now I was running from work to her house and back and forth and trying to keep things, together, and getting her to her doctor's visits and all that. And something just hit me one day, and I said, why don't I apply for services for her?
Like that's what you do, right? That's
exactly.
And that's exactly what. It's funny you said that, because caregivers go through the same thing.
Exactly.
It's like, why don't I do it for me? Everybody else is telling me this, but we don't think, and we have to be advocates for ourselves sometimes, right? Which is what you did. So sometimes, again, we're afraid to ask. We don't know what to ask, and this is where this comes in.
Right.
So I know that you said a lot of this is funded, and it's even through private foundations. I think you said
my
your organization.
Funding for the work I do, and I feel very grateful and blessed, for the last 8 years, I believe, it's through the Jim and Jan Moran Foundation. And then there's some other donations that come in as well. But I'm
so
very
this keeps
blessed.
the cost at zero, or
there's never a charge. There's never a fee. Never a fee for me. But in regards to my mom, she gets Community Care for the Elderly, and she pays 3% of her income for services. In my mother's case, she pays $27 a month for a lovely woman who comes out several times a week, helps her with bathing, cleaning, My mother can't lift the garbage outside her condo. She helps her throw the garbage away, does we take a lot for granted, but a senior, especially one with one arm, can't put a sheet on her bed,
Right.
So she helps my mother in many, many ways. She also has an alert response system, which is fabulous because that gives me a lot of peace of mind. And that costs her $27 a month.
Wow. So it's based on a percentage of their income in many cases.
That's right.
DJ, what you were saying is very affordable. And a lot of these services are free and others are very low cost for everyone.
Everything is dependent on eligibility and criteria. And that always comes down to your medical needs and your financial needs.
They work together
as
for the application, which DJ is so great about doing. Well, this is fascinating. It's great information. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hear more from DJ and Gail and some true stories, just like the one you heard, so great success stories of how they've been able to help people and what they can do for you if you are also in need of these services. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Wandering is a common problem for people with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's also a problem for family members who care for them. Keeping them safe and secure means never letting your guard down. And even though deep down you know it's time, it hurts to have to ask for help. But it could hurt them even more if you didn't. We know. We understand. We can help. Arden Courts. The inability to recognize the obvious often occurs with Alzheimer's, particularly among the family members who care for them. When the time comes for you to decide that someone you love needs more help than you can give, will you be able to recognize it? Don't wait for a crisis to make the decision for you. Talk to us. We know. We understand. We can help. Arden Courts. Somewhere at the corner of bewildered and confused is a lost mother, a father, a sibling, a grandparent. Wandering is a common symptom of Alzheimer's or related dementias and can often make those who care for a loved
Solutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
We're back. Caregiver Solutions info on caregiversolutions.info if you're watching us on your computer or smartphone or local radio Southeast Florida. We are live from Boca Raton. My guests today are from the Aging and Disability Resource Center, Broward County, ADRC for short, and they are awesome. We have DJ and Gail, and we've been talking about all kinds of services that people can access, things that you probably didn't even know that you needed or could apply for, and many of them are absolutely free, and others can be had at a very low cost depending upon your finances. So this is really good information for all caregivers out there, or if you know a caregiver in a situation where they need some help, they don't have a lot of money, this can help them. Even people that do have some means can benefit from some of these programs. So Gail was talking about her special program. She's the director of the Senior Intervention Program. And Gail, I want to talk a little bit more about this program that you're in charge of, because I know that you provide some really nice services to people. So talk about the durable medical equipment. Are things like walkers, wheelchairs, potty chairs, things like that.
Benches,
yeah, so tell us what you do regarding that and how people can benefit.
Okay, well, way back, going back 26 years, I was going into the homes of my clients, and I was able to identify how I can keep them in their own homes. And, I just want to go back to, I stated before I wanted to keep them out of nursing homes and
as long as it's safe, and as long as they're getting what they need.
Right. If they need to go in, I'm also there to help them apply for the different programs, the Medicaid programs, so that they can, because nursing homes are hospitals for long-term care. Assisted living facilities, you can have a fabulous quality of life there, especially today with the long-term care program, because you can get long-term care at home, or you can have that money go for your care in a facility, which will upgrade you to a facility with more care. So we've got ways today that we didn't have way back when I started.
Things change, like you said.
Right.
DJ said it's all about change, right?
All about change.
And things are always changing.
Yeah.
So caregivers need all the current information,
and they don't get it. They don't get it when they need it. Unfortunately, you know, I love to do public speaking. I love this, what you're giving us here today, because we're reaching out to people before they go to crisis.
That's the key right there.
And that is the key.
Prevention and preparedness, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you work the program with the DME equipment?
Well, way back when I recognized that I could actually adapt a home for safety and independence, especially while people were on a wait list, because now we've got that window. I can make the referral. I go out upon referral. I visit. I see what people need. And then there's always that time while things are being processed. I bring back the information to my office. I get the application going. But then there's that period of time where they're still not getting help. And when I went out there, they needed it a year ago or 2 years ago. So I recognized that if I was able to bring in some medical equipment and enable them to do some things for themselves safely and independently. For instance, I had a lady with severe arthritis. She hadn't had a shower in the longest time. She was just doing, sponge bath. Mm-hmm. And that impacts on your self-worth, your self-esteem, and with that being said, she had a bathtub. She was in an apartment complex, so she couldn't take that bathtub out. She was renting, and I was able to give her a transfer bench, which goes in the bath, outside of the bath, straddles the tub, and this way there was no chance of her falling or having to lift her leg up. You sit down outside and you just scoot in, and you're safe. With a handheld shower hose, you are now able to manage your own personal care and not have to wait for somebody to come or not have to stay without bathing. So, and even when a caregiver, is dealing with a bigger person and they're unable to get that person into that shower area, and sometimes they acquire a lot of fears about that when you have dementia, this makes it a much smoother, kinder, easier, and also safer way to help somebody shower or bathe as well.
And some of this durable medical equipment is free, right? Because you mentioned that you get it donated to you?
Everything I get is donated. Over the years, I have a lot of resources, and God knows people have been amazing in donating things to me. And this way, I clean it because it's durable. I clean it with bleach, and it's ready for the next person. And the thing that, is hardest to get is bath shower chairs. And that's the thing people need the most, because the bathroom is the most dangerous place in the house. I do safety checks when I go in, and I'm able to identify where that person may have a problem in, sitting too low on a toilet, not being able to get up on their own. They're holding on to a bath bar which isn't strong enough to hold a person's body up, or they're trying to get themselves up off the through the vanity. And so I would put in a frame of a commode, and this way it was higher and they had handles in which to push themselves up off it, and they weren't stuck on the toilet. I watched people stuck, unable to get up off the toilet because they didn't have the strength, and they maybe didn't have the range of motion in their hips because they had a hip fracture or the arthritis or the stenosis.
And sometimes caregivers or people that are dealing with some of these issues, they just don't even think about those kinds of things. And it takes, like you, an advocate to go in there and say, hey, we can provide this for you. Right. It's a simple fix, but it makes so much difference in their quality of life.
Well, it changes their ability to manage their own care and the care of somebody else, and it doesn't cost them anything, and I was so happy to bring this stuff with me. I mean, even if you get Medicare and you have medical equipment through Medicare, if something breaks before 5 years, they will not give you another
You have to
piece
wait
of
5
equipment.
years before they
I
replace
had a woman paralyzed from the neck down. She had an electric wheelchair, and it was broken. And I brought her a manual wheelchair at that time so she could get to the doctors, because they wouldn't give her a manual wheelchair because she already had an electric wheelchair, and it wasn't 5 years yet.
Wow.
So people don't, again, recognize insurance and all that is going on with insurance companies. The same way when they're getting discharged out of the hospital, a lot of times they think, well, I'm going to get care. My insurance will take care of me. Insurance companies do not do custodial care.
Right.
You might get someone to come out for a day here and a day there for maybe 2 weeks. Okay, if you have really good insurance, maybe you get a couple more days. But there is no ongoing custodial care. And it's at that point that a lot of caregivers and a lot of lone seniors realize that they need to look for help elsewhere. And if they don't know about the Aging Disability Resource Center, they don't know where to look.
Well, I think this is amazing what you all do. We're going to take our last break, and when we come back, you're going to find out how you can tap in to the services of the ADRC.
Do you need the advice of an elder law attorney? Perhaps you find it
Being unable to recognize the obvious often occurs with Alzheimer's or related dementias, even among their caregivers. When the time comes for you to decide that someone you love needs more help than you can give, will you be able to recognize it? Don't wait for a crisis to make the decision for you. Talk to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines. One feel justice lost. If you're looking for a place that's safe and secure, look to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines. Wandering is a common problem for people with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's also a problem for family members who care for them. Keeping them safe and secure means never letting your guard down. And even though deep down you know it's time, it hurts to have to ask for help. But it could hurt them even more if you didn't. We know, we understand, we can help. Arden Courts.
You are listening to your host, Marsha Teal, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marsha. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
You're joining Caregiver Solutions Info Show, and at this time I'd like to thank our national sponsor, Arden Courts Memory Care Community. Arden Courts is a leader in memory care because memory care is all they do. They're assisted living for people that suffer from memory loss, any type of dementia. Doesn't necessarily have to be Alzheimer's because there are a lot of different types of dementia and different reasons for it. So Arden Courts cares for their residents, and they know what to do. They understand. They really care, but they care about you, the caregiver, also the family caregiver. And as such, they have a lot of resources to offer you with their resource libraries located inside their buildings. But right now, they'd like to offer you a resource just for tuning in and watching our program. If you are a caregiver and you don't have this book, it's called the 36-Hour Day Book. This is an awesome resource for caregivers. It gives all kinds of information, tips on caregiving, definitions, talks about challenging behaviors. It's just a wonderful book. Arden Courts would like for you to have it just for the asking, absolutely free. And all you have to do is call them on their toll-free line, which is 888-478-2410. Again, 888 478-2410. Tell the person who answers the phone that you heard about the free book offer on the Caregiver Solutions info show, and they'll be happy to get your information and make sure a book gets mailed out right to you as soon as possible. I can't recommend it enough. Anything caregivers can do to educate themselves and be prepared, and this is just one way to do it, by not only listening to this program, but taking advantage of any offers and taking advantage of resources like my guests are here talking about today from the Aging Disability Resource Center of Broward. So we're talking to DJ and Gail, and you guys are full of wonderful information, helpful things for caregivers. Gail, you are the director of the Senior Intervention Program, and we've been talking a little bit about the different things that you can provide, education for caregivers, free DME equipment to help people keep safe in their homes. Sometimes when I think about intervention, I think about a caregiver who might be at home in a dangerous situation because they may have a spouse who has dementia, especially maybe the male spouse who's stronger, more authoritative, and sometimes the dementia gets them to a point where they get so frustrated and upset and angry they become violent. And that is something that a lot of caregivers deal with, unfortunately. Also, a lot of caregivers will wait until a crisis comes before they want to say, hey, I got to do something with my husband before he kills me. But I think what a lot of caregivers don't realize is that you can't just take your loved one and drop them off somewhere to take care of them, because there are state laws and people have to be assessed as being appropriate to live in a community, any kind of assisted living or a memory care community, to make sure that that person is not a threat to themselves or others. And that's one of the key components of seeing that someone is appropriate, is that component. So obviously, if someone is a threat to someone at home, there's got to be things done so that maybe they can stay at home longer, or so that they can be managed, because management is the key. It's not to say that a person cannot eventually come into a community to be helped, but their behavior has to be managed. And so a lot of times caregivers don't have the financial wherewithal to be able to go into an assisted living, because sometimes they unfortunately don't have the means. And assisted livings are not covered by Medicare. It's a custodial type of care, and it's private pay. So what can a caregiver do at home? What can you share in the few minutes we have left, what caregivers can do at home if they're in a situation where they feel threatened?
Well, two cases come to mind. One in particular I'll never forget, and this lady ended up being the client. She was the caregiver, and then she ended up becoming my client after her husband, who was with dementia, passed on. But I'll never forget in his case, he was going to daycare, and he started acting out, and he was getting aggressive, and he was very agitated, and they said he couldn't come to daycare anymore. Little did they know that the reason why his behavior was like this was because he had pneumonia. You often see behavioral changes because of urinary tract infection.
Absolutely.
Okay, so, caregivers have to read between the lines. And even where their doctors may not identify what's going on, or the people that they're depending on in the senior centers. So I've seen a lot of sad, outcomes, people being Baker acted because they had pneumonia, they had a medical problem, and they were unable to express. Because when you have dementia, you can't oftentimes say, my head hurts, or, I have pain in my body. So they are acting out instead. So there's a lot more that goes on with this caregiving than what a lot of people see on a daily basis. I recently also had a case of a younger man and a younger caregiver spouse, and she was reaching out because he is a closed head injury victim who now has dementia. And with that being said, the brain is mission control. And so when there is an injury, and again, we can say Alzheimer's, but that's an umbrella term for so many different multi-infarct dementia is bleed in the brain. There could be a head injury. There could be a tumor. There could be a Parkinson type. There's alcohol-related dementia. You know, there's mental illness that mimics dementia. So we have to get to the root. A lot of people don't realize that they need a neurological diagnostic exam so they can find out. They just can't go to their primary. He's got
take some
Alzheimer's.
Take some Aricept, some Namenda,
or some other medication that may, in fact, exacerbate.
Got to find out the reason.
Find out the reason. So that's number one. And then when you have these episodes or these kinds of issues with someone you're caregiving to, it's frightening. And this particular person got violent in the daycare center. They didn't want him anymore.
Right.
She has to go to work. You know, this is a younger couple, and I'm seeing dementia in younger and younger people. So we've got a lot of issues there with finances and where are they going to live and who's going to take care of them. So in this particular case, she was in a terrible crisis. And with that being said, I did apply for long-term care for them so they can get more help in the house. She was devastated because she was going to lose her job. And there's things that we oftentimes don't have any control over. You know, they wouldn't take him back in daycare because of the outbursts. And he did need to go into a facility so that he could be evaluated, and hopefully a change in medication would help his behavior.
There you go. You got to manage, and that's part of it, managing the behavior, managing the medications. Well, I want to thank you all for coming today. Both of you are so wonderful. You're angels on earth with providing information to caregivers who need it. Before we go, DJ, tell people how we can get in touch with you.
The easiest way is to call the helpline at the ADRC Aging and Disability Resource Center at 954-745-9567. We also have a website where you can put in your zip code and get information about what you need, transportation, meals, what have you. And that's adrcbroward.org.
Wonderful. And for you, Gail, you said that you actually give a phone number out if someone would like to speak to you directly. What's your cell phone number?
Yeah, my cell phone number is 954-655-1657.
Awesome. Thank you both for being here today.
And thank Arden Court for this. This is a blessing.
Well, we appreciate you. Blessings come both ways, right? So we're so happy, and hopefully you all have been blessed by the information and the wonderful passion that these ladies have provided, and the information that you can take advantage of. Don't forget, we'll be here same time, same place next week. In the meantime, give somebody a hug because they need it, and so do you. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teal. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more Caregiver Solutions.